everyone, it's me again and Squishing, and I'm back here with Elle, who is obviously on the call with me right now, and we are here for episode 2 of our reading Rhetoric and Retweets kind of podcast type deal. So I do want to start with a little bit of housekeeping like I always do. We're going to keep doing these probably about once a week, and then I'm also going to try to fit my content in somewhere around the weekend normally. And then I also want to mention that if you comment conspiracy theorist rhetoric or any sort of anti-science type claims that are really audacious or you're hateful, in my comment section I will block your ability to comment, because I've got some pretty weird comments about science being fake, which is not the message that I'm bringing in this channel. But I do also want to thank everyone who subscribed. My new subscribers, I'm at about 450 subscribers right now, and I think that's very great, and I'm very happy. And I'm going to keep hoping that you guys get into this kind of content, because I do love having these conversations with somebody else. And also, I do want to say some trigger warnings before we start, verbally this time, because I kind of noticed them later in the podcast last week and don't want to kind of make anybody uncomfortable. I'm going to verbally give some trigger warnings right now. For SA, which I'll put the real word here, sexual health, narcissistic abuse, and death or murder, because we are going to be talking about Bianca Devins a little bit more in this podcast. Also, I wanted to do one thing, because I did just have a Jimmy Snow video, and my teacher today in one of my courses perfectly summed up Gabbie Hanna's poetry issue, which is what Rachel Oates was getting at too, in one sentence. I just wanted to tell you guys because I thought it was so interesting. It was just so perfectly encapsulated every issue that Gabbie Hanna seems to not be able to see, which is poetry cannot represent abstractions by naming them directly, and those images do not belong to the world but come up as a result of the activity around them. Meaning that the problem with her poetry is that she's telling you that she's sad instead of bringing objects around to make the world around the action feel sad, if that makes any sense. Anyways, we're gonna have Elle come in and, you know, give us, I don't know, some life updates or whatever she desires before we start. So how are you doing, Elle?
I'm doing okay. I just was like finagling with my microphone to get it to like a better place so I can record my audio better. I apologize in advance for air conditioning noises if anybody can hear them on the pod. It is 30 degrees where I am right now, and I don't want to die of heat exhaustion while filming this, because I feel like we're gonna get like, if not like emotionally heated, like I usually, like, I can break out in like a cold sweat. Like I'm one to break out in a sweat if I...
Yeah, no, that's very fair.
Yeah, so preemptively, I need my self-care air conditioning, so...
Yeah, the BC West Coast, like the British Columbia / Washington-esque heat wave has kind of swooped down out to southern Ontario, which is kind of the, like, in the southern part of Canada, which is like where I'm located, so I completely understand. Actually, on my computer, it says alert. With where the temperature, like it says a little temperature on the bar, it says alert. So it's hot. For the American gang, because it seems like most of you guys are American based on my analytics, which is interesting, it's around with humidex like pushing like 104 degrees depending, but high 90s to low hundreds depending on humidex and where you are and like how much concrete there is. So we got lots to talk about today because Gabbie Hanna only added one more episode to the actual series. However, the whole internet has been reading this girl to filth. So we're gonna talk about that today because it's been like a crazy week. So we're gonna start with the actual like last episode that's been recorded, of quote unquote, like not recorded but put out as far as the series goes. So this one is called Chapter 5, TRISHA PAYTAS Can't Stop Lying. So the first thing I want to talk about actually is her kind of proof of virtue signaling from the last episode, given that she goes in a rant about Charlie and Dixie D'Amelio, how it's not their fault that they're privileged and they've just won the lottery, but then talks about how black women are ignored on the internet and pioneer everything, but ignores the fact that people like Charlie and Dixie D'Amelio are often famous on the backs of POC creators. So what do you think about that? Because that kind of irked me personally.
Honestly, I noticed that too. I was kind of like, you know, you wouldn't see that in editing, or like, you know, maybe just like refilm that part entirely, like, because that's like a blatant contradiction of what you're trying to say, because like it, and that's what makes it so evident that she is like, and I really don't, I don't love to use the word virtue signaling, but like, you know, this is like blatant, like she doesn't actually, you know, she did care about these, about like conversations of race in terms of like social media and progress, and how white creators do statistically better because algorithms can be racist. She would have actually acknowledged how like they won the lottery because the algorithm is racist. Like she would have, like, if she actually cared, she would have like, you know, acknowledged how that came into play, because like the reality is that like, you know, it's winning the lottery for a white person, but it's even harder for like, you know, a black person to make it on social media. I would argue making it on social media is even harder than winning the lottery, because the lottery is actually like, you're just buying a ticket. It's like numbers. Like it's literally like random. Whereas like social media, people see your skin tone.
Yeah. Unless you're like Nicholas Diorio and you don't show your face on camera like ever. I'm probably gonna go on a Nicholas Diorio rant later. I'm gonna drag this bird. But then he's probably gonna call me ugly.
Phil. We were dragging that man to Phil.
Yeah, he's probably gonna call me ugly on Twitter. Yeah. No, because he'll probably call me ugly on Twitter if he finds this, because I do have Rihanna's forehead. We're talking like the long forehead with the middle part, but you know what? Rihanna's famous, so. But it's a matter of. I'm also gonna tag. Is it Amanda BB? Is that how you say the channel? I think so. Because it's BB, like the internet, like, yeah. And she talked about TikTok in particular being a problem for Black or POC creators in her, not her most recent videos, I think it's a Sims playthrough, but like her most recent like commentary video. So I'll tag that here because I did watch it, and a lot of it talked about features like the download feature, which actually I usually pop a meme at the end of my videos, like my regular content, and then I do make sure that the part that lists the TikTok creator stays in, so you can see who made it. That kind of aspect of it, she talks about how the download feature is innately harmful to Black or POC creators, because then white people just re-upload it on Twitter. And then when it's re-uploaded on Twitter, it becomes an Instagram meme, because that's kind of like the life cycle.
It also just perpetuates a lot of like, some people just take these like clips from TikTok literally only just to like outrage Black people on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, they're just doing it for outrage culture. They're just doing it because, you know, they're like, oh, we want to see the funny jokes that all the Black people are going to make. And it's like, that's like, why are you literally pissing people off for no reason? Why are you trying to upset people with seeing racist content?
It's nice that as of, I believe, yesterday or 2 days ago, a Black man overtook Addison Rae as the second most followed TikTok creator. It's that guy that, I'll put one of his TikToks in as we're kind of talking about it, but it's that guy that he watches like 5-minute crafts videos, and then he finds it and he just like does it normally because it's easier. When he like motions at it, he does like the hand thing like this.
Oh, he's like, I think I like what you're like describing.
So that's like his whole brand, very like wholesome brand, but it's just nice that it's not a size 2 white woman stealing dances from POC creators that's at the top of the game anymore, you know, necessarily. Obviously, like, Charli D'Amelio still holds the crown, but it's nice to have some diversity. Especially, like, I make a point, especially after watching Amanda's video, where she said, like, if you see a POC creator with a lot of likes, like, follow them. Because they don't retain the following the same way as white creators do.
No, exactly.
My new favorite is the guy who watches, like, divorce court and stuff, and then he... He does like a dramatic reading of the judge's script. Like, he'll be sitting there, he's like, and the father is, and he does it like in sync with like a monitor. People used to do that last summer for Gabbie Hanna's videos a lot. Like the high school bullies thing, like people would have it playing, and it's like, I'm not gonna sit here with screenshots exposing my bullies. He's doing the same kind of thing, but with like shows like divorce court and stuff. But the next part of the video, she goes into her assault, right? Which... it's interesting because if you notice, we'll get into that part later, the Jessi Smiles video that she made, but she never mentions that Gabbie's assaulted. Because Jessi knows that it hurts to do that, right? Even though for Gabbie Hanna, it's also public knowledge. And I just think that's such a like interesting kind of aspect of the two of them, is Jessi still has respect for her even after all of this. Because when she said that Gabbie said that she was assaulted by an actor, which is similar to TRISHA PAYTAS, actually, because I know that happened to TRISHA PAYTAS a lot. But and Gabbie Hanna has no sympathy for TRISHA PAYTAS in that regard, which is ridiculous. Anyways, and there's that, yeah, Jessi just has so much more respect for her, because I've never heard Gabbie being assaulted out of Jessi Smiles' mouth, despite the fact that the conversation revolves around those topics.
One thing I've kind of noticed, like, similarities between, like, this situation where, like, you know, people need to respect Gabbie's boundaries, but Gabbie doesn't have to respect Jessi's. It kind of reminds me of how some people disregard, like, Caitlyn Jenner's pronouns because, you know, she's a controversial figure, and because she has committed, like, you know, like, manslaughter. Like, yeah, like, it reminds me of that. Like, you're not giving anybody, like, their basic level dignity, right? Like, you don't have to be nice to somebody that you don't like, but, well, no, like, you don't have to be, like, overly nice, you know, you don't have to be, like, you know, bending over backwards, but, like, you can at least, like, acknowledge a level of empathy and humanity with another human by just acknowledging and respecting their gender. And, like, in this case, like, Gabbie could be like, hey, I disagree with Jessi, like, you know, we had, like, our own fights, and, like, maybe she is mad about a fight that she had with Jessi, you know, or whatever, but, like, the fact that she won't even just, like, literally extend the most basic empathy for Jessi and be like literally, please respect the boundaries she set for her trauma, it says a lot about where she's at. And, like, I know in the last pod I kind of wished Gabbie all the best, but, like, we were kind of talking, and, like, I'm not gonna retract that, but, like, I really do not like her. I really do not like her. The more and more I see, it's just like,
you know, and Gabbie Hanna always says it's like, people are making these opinions based on, like, the opinions of other people. Like, let's say, like, you get your opinion of Gabbie Hanna through Jessi Smiles or Angelika Oles, right? But then we're making this from watching Gabbie Hanna's content out of Gabbie Hanna's mouth. That's the craziest thing. And yeah, you know who else, like, purposefully misgenders like that is, like, Ben Shapiro. Like, that same, I was watching Hassan yesterday, and he said that he had a video clip that he put in that was, like, Ben Shapiro talking about Caitlyn Jenner, then calls Caitlyn Jenner a she, like passively, like a normal person would, and then makes a step back to go, no, wait, he, oops, you know, which is, like, to kind of put into the audience, yeah, like, Ben Shapiro, like, gendered Caitlyn Jenner properly, and then went, oh, he.
The amount, like, of... Okay, the amount of, like, literal, like, that's so extra. You quite literally had to do a, like, mental backflip to, like, go out of your way to misgender somebody. Like,
try to be a jerk, yeah.
Literally or purposefully being a dick.
Well, that's the same, like, thing with Gabbie Hanna is always, like, forcing that Jessi Smiles is pushing this, like, emotional reaction, you know? Because also, like, people talking about you is not slander. People talking about you being a trash person is not slander. Me saying, Gabbie Hanna, you're not a good person because you're an apologist, you're an R-word apologist, you screech, you misuse language, you misrepresent mental health and pretty important situations, you are slanderous towards other people. These things I have proof of, and I'm not taking money away from you doing this. And this is not slander. I can, like, pop in videos for every single thing I'm saying, or Twitter or whatever. People talking about your shitty actions is not slander.
Emily D. Baker has, like, said this, like, multiple times, like, throughout, like, all the live streams she's done, like, covering this, like, and, like, she's an American lawyer, so, like we're in Canada, but even here, like, you could, like, Gabbie would not be able to sue for, like, slander to any of these, you know, the drama channels she claims that are slandering her.
Yeah, and Canada has a particularly loose definition of freedom of speech. Like, you could say, like, a lot of stuff in Canada in particular, because someone tried to file against some sort of discrimination through verbal discrimination like that in the Supreme Court in Saskatchewan, and it didn't pass. Like, there's Canada's like free speech and slander is pretty open especially compared to other countries. But we're gonna end off this episode's conversation because I really want to make sure we have lots of time to do the other stuff. With one, stop using Google as a PhD. Enough, please. I can't. Stop saying things about your ADHD. Also, you tend to not show what the Google bar is. So are you showing like ADHD and mood swings just so it highlights properly? Stop using Google as a PhD, okay, to fuel your narrative. Also, stop calling the tweets fake from Jessi Smiles, especially because this is supposed to be an episode about TRISHA PAYTAS. And finally, stop pointing out no you argumentation from other people when you don't have the self-awareness to not do it yourself. The TRISHA PAYTAS shit's just been like dragged on for way too long, and like I don't want this episode to be mostly TRISHA PAYTAS stuff again because we talked about it quite a bit last week. Because the next one is also reacting to TRISHA videos for the first time, right? Which is hilarious because she says she's surprised about TRISHA having receipts and then overlays videos from 4 or 5 years ago and texts from like 2016. Like, so I don't understand why you would say, oh my god, it's so weird. Like, there's just consistent instances of lack of self-awareness. I believe that she does in order for her argumentation to not seem hypocritical. She doesn't believe that she's doing it.
No, exactly.
That's
and like,
I think she does that. Yeah.
yeah, and like, you know, Jessi said in her video in terms of like holding on to receipts, like she doesn't have like I don't even have a phone with like receipts from 2016 on it. Like I actually like forgot to back up my phone to the cloud for my last phone, so like I don't even have texts from then. For her to have them from 2016, like that's literally like 5 years ago. Like that's like and okay, I don't, and again, like this is why I say like said vendetta in the last podcast, because, and I noticed this when I was rewatching the videos today too, Gabbie does hold grudges. She holds grudges so hard against people because she said in her video that we're going to get to later about Jessi, how Jessi weaponized her following against Gabbie, a then small creator on Vine, where Jessi had like 1 million followers and Gabbie had 10,000 followers. And then the timeline goes on with Gabbie then defending Curtis Lepore and then becoming friends with Jessi later and then not being friends. And it just like, it was just giving me like creep show art energy. Like, you know, I'm not trying to compare the two because like obviously like what Shannon is being alleged of is, well, I don't know. Can we like be like, you know, they're both harassers. They both like.
I mean, and yeah, at least creep show art did it anonymously. I don't know. like, because the thing is too, no, but like now it's Jessi Smiles has like 200,000, might be 600,000 actually subs on YouTube, whatever, and Gabbie Hanna has like 5.6 million.
Exactly, and it's like you can acknowledge the power dynamic difference there, but you can't acknowledge the power dynamic difference for someone like Rachel Oates. You can't acknowledge the power dynamic for someone like Jessi now. And that's the thing, is that like with the like the reason why it reminded me of Creepshow is because it reminded me of like how Emily Artful said in her video of how she made one offhanded comment about Shannon not having a good singing voice, and like that's the only thing she could think of that would be like a catalyst for her to kind of like, you know, go through those like alleged actions that Emily alleges, and I believe for the most part with the circumstantial evidence provided. But yeah, like Gabbie, it's kind of given the same vibe. It's like, oh, she wronged me then, and I've had this vendetta against her since. And that's the thing, is that she defaulted to that rhetoric of like, oh, like, you know, I'm willing to hear out Curtis, and like, you know, she was engaging in R-word apologia on Twitter back when the allegations came out. She admitted to that because she said everybody believed it at the time, and it's like, okay, but maybe you also were a little biased because maybe this was a creator you didn't like.
Yeah, or a creator you were jealous of, because she talks about being jealous of people more famous than her in either later in the same episode or later. But back to the TRISHA PAYTAS thing, the comment of the lowest point in my life is when people believe TRISHA PAYTAS over me. I audibly went, that's so messed up. I was like, that is such a horrific thing to say about somebody. The lowest point in my life was when I had a worse reputation than this person I don't like. Like, how you're literally saying that, like, oh my god, this person is the bottom of the absolute moral bottom of the barrel. And then goes to say that Trisha Paytas copies her in the music videos, but then also says, I can't not make my music videos. They save my life, so I need money. Like, you privileged ass, get a grip, man. Come on. You say Trisha Paytas is copying you. But you say, like, that she's the worst possible person. So I mean, if she's executing the copying well, then she's just like you, and whatever. And then, like,
wasn't she your best friend?
Yeah.
Wasn't Trisha your best friend? She's bottom of the barrel, and you think she's the worst, and you think it's the worst to be compared to her, but you said that you were friends with her.
You insisted in like 5 videos and multiple Twitter threads that you were like best friends with her.
Yeah, so why are you upset that people chose another person's side who you claim is your best? Like, wow.
Pick a struggle again. I ended off this, or I also mentioned that Gabbie weaponizes Trisha knowing that Shane Dawson was the one that spread the rumor, despite the fact that I believe Trisha Paytas finding out during the run on Frenemies. But the video that Gabbie Hanna is playing is 2019 Trisha Paytas, which, may I add, I know this is going to be a weird detail, but you can tell that was when she was when Trisha Paytas was abusing drugs. Sorry, they were abusing drugs. Because Trisha Paytas brings up that, like, 2019, they were on, like, meth binges and stuff. So you're taking somebody in their worst possible psychological state, one that you say you cannot have weaponized against you, because you said Jessi Smiles was so horrible because you were suicidal. I'm doing des guillemets because I don't know where that lays in that statement, but so you're saying that when you're in a bad mental state, that no one can use anything against you, but then you're playing videos where in a time frame where Trisha Paytas was saying they were addicted to methamphetamines.
I'm inclined to believe that Gabbie maybe took the claim more seriously because it came from Shane, and because she's like, oh, well, Shane's known Trisha forever, you know? Like, she knew that they'd had a long friendship. But then why the hell are you going around and telling not only the partner, but, like, now you're, like, the whole reason, like, Trisha even went on that video spree to begin with is because Gabbie was tweeting about it on Instagram. And because people were able to put the dots together and figure out it was Trisha. And then everybody went flooding Trisha on Twitter. And you're right. Like, it's literally like poking somebody where they're at, like, one of their lowest points. It's like poking I don't want to say poking a bear, but it's like literally you're poking somebody who's, like, in a fragile position, and, like, you know, it was a false rumor. And, like, you know, Trisha has done some unforgivable things, but I will always be on her side for that situation, because spreading false rumors, but not even, like, sensationalizing sexual health is just so gross. How is that any of your business? And people who have STIs are totally allowed to have consensual sex with adults, and it is not your place to try to, like, wedge yourself into somebody else's bedroom and try to police, or even like it's just gross.
I know what sex you were having because Jason told me. I know because Jason told me. As a rebuttal to Trisha saying, did you put the condom on him? You weren't there. And then she's like, I heard about it, so I know it. And then, like I said, the issue wasn't the actual like coming together of the, you know, her rumor. It was because Gabbie Hanna went on Instagram and said, guys, am I a good person? Tell me I'm a good person, because I'm preventing someone from getting an incurable STD. Which, like...
And also, so what if Jason did have that? So what? Like, again, she's really making it seem like it just, like, the rhetoric around that, it just seemed, well, no, like, I don't think she was, like, intentionally trying to, like, sensationalize STIs, but, like, it is kind of like, you know, you're kind of adding to the stigma.
STI is a god term, though. STI is a type of term that invokes a reaction. And then to say, like, am I a good person? Because also good character on the internet is also a very sought after thing that people want, especially people who have had damaged reputations. I'm just gonna dip into the Angelika Oles video just for a couple minutes. There's, right off the bat, Gabbie Hanna is blaming drama channels for the pictures of Bianca's passing. By the way, trigger warning, this is the section about death and stuff like that. And blaming Bianca's death for the picture circulating, despite the fact that that murderer was famous online for the pictures circulating in the first place.
Yeah, I think people forgot to
Angelika
even, like...
Yeah, Angelika Oles didn't hack into the mainframe and take the pictures. Like
those photos were posted online by the murderer, and they were then circulated on 4chan, Reddit, and then they were sent to the family by sick people from those sites. So, like, just, like, mean, awful people who were trying to traumatize the family. And that didn't even happen. Like, that, like, the drama around this hadn't even happened when those photos were being sent to the family.
And then Gabbie also weaponizes DMing Kim, despite on videos like Ready to Glares, it's Kim Devins commenting on them. You don't owe me an apology. So you have some sort of chip on your shoulder towards Angelika Oles, but then weaponize a generalization, which we love, like, qualitative fallacies, but, you know, or sorry, quantitative fallacies, pardon me, of just kind of like fallacy of hasty generalization, right? If one person did this, everybody did this, right? And just because you hate just because you, like, hate the hell out of Angelika Oles, it doesn't mean that she circulated the pictures, and also doesn't mean that it applies to everybody. Also, why would you attack Ready to Glare, especially someone who is, like, known for being very kind and has recently had to deal with all the Creepshow art stuff, you know, especially because, like, her and, like, Ready to Glare, I mean, so what's her name, Julia, I think, and Creepshow, so Shannon, were, like, legitimately good internet friends, like Elle and I, like, where they would collaborate and talk to each other and knew where each other was from and knew details about each other as people. And then to have Julia got backstabbed, and then all of a sudden Gabbie Hanna's coming for Ready to Glare over reporting on something where Kim Devins didn't even think that Julia was doing anything wrong. I'm really hope her name's Julia. It is, though.
No, it is Julia, you're right. It's Julia with a G. It's Italian.
Okay, thank God. Yeah, it's Italian, yeah, I knew that, yeah.
So, and you're absolutely right with the hasty generalization there, because, like, Angelika wasn't the first person to report on this. That's the thing. She wasn't the first person. I think it's a pretty known fact that Angelika usually, like, scoops her drama from a bunch of other places and then compiles it all together and you know, provides all the information in chronological order or the best to her ability. Like, it's not like, you know, Angelika's not the one who's always breaking every story, you know, and she'd probably be the first to admit that. Like, she's just, you know, reporting on the drama.
Yeah, like, it's usually, is it not usually, the viewer's voice or, like, Rich Lux that will break stuff? Or, that guy that did the thing with Sanders Kennedy. The guy who said Shane Dawson was good, yeah. So there's, like, those are kind of the people who pump out quicker and more frequent videos are usually the people that do those kinds of, like, the break news stories. But
even Sid, also, that one guy, because he's the one that leaked the Discord stuff with Gabbie Hanna's messages.
Because there's so much fodder for not liking Angelika. Like, there's so much, like, other stuff that you could bring up. You could bring up the rant about the Jewish Snapchat show. You could bring up the calling Latino women white passing. You can talk about, there's lots of other stuff that you could legitimately bring up. But instead, you have to make everything relevant to you specifically, despite the fact that you say everybody makes everything about you. So they're just projecting the world that you've created around your internet persona, that everything revolves around you. Gabbie Hanna being you in this case, obviously.
What was it, Jessi's quote? You reap what you sow. And that's the thing, is that, like, and I don't know, like, what do you think about the whole thing in general? Do you think it was blown out of proportion, or, like, do you think Gabbie should have apologized in the first place, you know?
Gabbie Hanna dealing with it quietly was dumb, and the fact that she still thinks that was the best way to go and blaming people for coming for her after she dealt with it quietly. You could deal with it quietly through also, like, a community tab post. Like, don't just blank it out. Like, you could have blanked it out and then done this up. yeah, it just been like, oops, oops, LeMayo, like, and then kind of just go off that way. That could have been like a minimal enough way to deal with it without inciting a bunch of drama, you know, and then just in your pinned comment be like, oh, I called the family and it was, you know, fine, right? Instead of making a video, and then when other people make videos, you attack them and scream bloody murder on a video on YouTube. That's my opinion on that whole thing anyways, regarding Bianca Devins. Was it was blown out of proportion in regards to Gabbie's intention. However, her execution was shown as it was in reality. And
I agree.
I question Gabbie's original intention after all this time, given how she's handling it now and sensationalizing it now.
Brought it up, like, and that's the thing is that Angelika mentioned in her video that Gabbie misinterpreted Angelika on Twitter, and that's the whole reason why this was even brought up in the first place. Angelika was referring to the time that Gabbie did a story time, because like I was in that Twitter thread. I actually, funny story, I replied to Gabbie underneath that, and she actually replied back, and I remember like my heart stopping, and because I was on my way to work, and I was like, no, I did not just get a reply from the Gabbie Hanna. And I looked and I was like, no freaking way. And I had, but I ratioed her ass. Anyways, basically in that thread, Angelika was saying, oh, you weaponize and have used people's deaths for money. Gabbie thought she was referring to the Bianca Devin situation. Angelika was not. She was referring to a story time that Gabbie had done of a girl who had, unfortunately...
Right?
Yes, in her school. And then the family literally reached out to her and was like, Gabbie, this is so distasteful. You know, you're literally like profiting off of your, you know, and she had to do an apology for that. And that was before, I believe, even the Kenza Cosmetics thing even happened. That's how long ago it was. So Angelika was like completely valid in that criticism. Gabbie's the one that took it as Bianca Devins and has used that to spin it and be like, oh, everybody's always called me and criticized me for this thing that I never did, and she holds it up to deflect. And it's like, she can't keep track of her own lies. She literally can't. And Jessi proved that in her video.
That's why I keep getting worried that like Jimmy Snow is low-key subtweeting me. Yeah, completely related really quick, but yeah, Jimmy Snow's been on like this like Twitter tirade where he's like locked down his Twitter and is just like calling people abusers. Like literally, yeah, and a lot of the things he brings up regard similar content to my video, and I'm getting like low-key a little worried that I'm getting subtweeted by someone with 35,000 Twitter followers. So I'm just waiting this one out, but maybe my ego's a little bit too inflated, which is fine, because if it is, then good, thank God. But my video doesn't, like, it has like, you know, 2,500 views or something. It's nothing big, but when you're in that kind of smaller, like under 500k range, I'm worried that it might come up. But as far as our next section before Jessi, there's the Escape the Night videos. Just want to touch on those because we talked about the Escape the Nightmare episode last week. You cannot blame Daniel or Joey for the fact that you, Gabbie Hanna, cannot handle production that doesn't revolve only around you. It is going to be different than music videos because there are like 15 stars at a time instead of just you. When there's a production revolving around you, there are going to be different accommodations, but Joey and Daniel can't just fend to you all the time.
Oh, it was the fact that Daniel in his video literally said, he's like, I've worked with Mariah Carey, I've worked with Britney Spears, I've worked with so-and-so, and never, ever, ever, ever have I worked with somebody as difficult as Gabbie Hanna. And I was like, that's saying something. Because, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I could have sworn there was probably, like rumors back in the day of Mariah being difficult to work with, maybe. Like,
oh, yeah, like, Mariah Carey... Well, apparently Mariah Carey, it's like, there has to be a certain light. Like, it has to be, like, warm lighting or something. And then Beyonce, back in the day, it was like you had to have a fan.
These are, like, the biggest celebrities in the world. Like, Beyonce wants a fan, Mariah just wants good light, and Gabbie Hanna is, like, seething at the mouth after Daniel Preda literally goes to Whole Foods and hand makes her salads, brings them to her, and she doesn't even eat them. And she's like, you guys are starving me. What?
Yeah. And then, like, Colleen's like, I want green juice. That is all. And then they're like, yeah, and yeah. And then we're also like, here. And then they gave her a breastfeeding trailer. That's insanity. Like, it's great, like, you know, but I'm just saying, like, if they're going to that end, they're accommodating everybody.
Like, if she actually has, like, that's the thing, like, if he's going to that length and she actually, like, had concerns, like, he has the receipts to back it up. Like, it's there. You know, like, he has, like, it's funny, too, because I noticed, like, the part where she was describing her meals, she completely forgot to, like, or not even, she intentionally didn't show the text where she was, like, demanding of Daniel, and she's like, sorry, LOL, I probably sound like a bitch.
Yeah, and then he's like, yes, I'll do it. There's a text where he's like, yeah, and then he's saying, oh, but if you're coming at, whatever it is, 12:30, be fed before then. And she goes, I only eat at 1:30. And then he's like, okay, well then bring food, because we do rounds at 5:30 and at like 10, whatever, 11 o'clock at night, because their show was apparently at night. Well, I guess Escape the Nightmare would, not Escape the Nightmare, Escape the Night would imply it's at nighttime. I didn't have internet when this aired, so that's why I haven't seen it, but everything Daniel Preda was talking about regarded, like, it was always night, it sounded like nighttime shoots normally.
Right? Like, I have no idea why she would agree to that. Like, that's the thing, she claimed she was begged to do this. It's like, okay, if you knew you were in a state of mind where you may not be the healthiest, and you're also, like, you're doing a really intense exercise regimen with intermittent fasting, why would you do a night show? Like that's the thing, is that, like, she really wasn't, that's the thing, I think she really didn't want to do it, but did it because she wanted to, like, or whatever. Like, from her perspective, I'm doing, like, air quotes on my end. But, you know, she was begged.
Yeah. But her constant hyperbole makes it hard to believe that, too.
Exactly. And so that's the thing, is that you did this before. You knew what the production would be like. How did you not think that your intermittent fasting was going to conflate with that? Like, you were familiar with production times previously. Like, wouldn't you have remembered the eating times you had, the stuff you worked? It just seems really like her foot was, like, she had one foot in, one foot out, because she didn't do her dietary, like, paperwork. She didn't go to her wardrobe fittings. You know, she didn't even think to consider if her schedule would align with the production schedule, because, like, that's the thing. Actors back out of productions all the time. Like, who's one I can think of? I can't even think of anything, but, like, you hear about, like, famous actors, like, famous actors backing out of productions all the time because of, like, even, like, just a schedule conflict, you know? Or, like, if someone's not in a great headspace, you know? Like, John Mulaney had to go to... Yeah! Oh, my God, like, oh, well, I guess, like, filming had wrapped on the one movie, but, like, when Carrie Fisher passed away and they had to use, like, you know, digital editing for, you know, her in Star Wars.
Oh my God, people are getting so mad at me that I forgot his name. Paul Walker, Fast and Furious man, right? Like, they still kept it pushing without him somehow. It's like they will manage without you if they have to. Daniel and Joey kept it pushing because they got the makeup artist to pose as Gabbie Hanna for the shot, because they knew that she would refuse to stand still for an hour.
That was after she had called the PA the C word.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, and it's just, Gabbie Hanna has such, like, an entitled poor me complex about everything.
She literally, like, she always talks about how she's the monster. I'm like, no, girl, you're the victim all the time. You're like, oh, I'm the victim. And it's like, you are in some circumstances, but, like, she has very, sometimes she can't parse, you know, other people's facts, and she'll only prescribe or acknowledge facts that align with her reality. She won't acknowledge facts that align with others' reality.
When someone gets assaulted, you're not the victim. Right? Actually, this is a good bridge into the Jessi Smiles stuff, because that would, okay. So let's get into that, because that's where we're heading with the victim mentality stuff, right? That's kind of a progression for that. Because I combined it in our sections. Gabbie Hanna will never stop, which is Jessi Smiles' video that was like an hour and a bit long, and then the 3-hour Jessi Smiles phone call video. Gabbie treats Twitter like tweets are viable in court, for one, which is dumb, and then proceeds to call Jessi Smiles her abuser.
I was like, where? Where's the evidence for that?
Gabbie admits that her 2014 apology or whatever it was, when she brings it back up in the phone call, Gabbie says, sorry you were upset about that.
You were upset. That's not an
Which
apology.
is like the most like, is that not a gaslighting apology? Like literally, right? Because that's what yeah, but that's because that's also like to convince you, in a way to convince you that like you shouldn't have been upset, right? That you're too quick to get upset about things. But when you're talking about probably the most traumatic night of your life, or you are referring to someone else's most traumatic moment of their life, you have no grounds to decide if they're upset or not.
Like, it's not even, and this broke my heart when Jessi said this in the video. Like, it literally, like, I had to pause for a sec and just think, because Jessi brought up how back when it happened to her and it was public, the only people she was getting hate from were Curtis's fans. And now the only people she ever hears bringing this up are Gabbie Hanna fans. And they only do it to vindicate Gabbie. They don't, and I can't even imagine. Like, I can't even imagine how traumatizing that must be.
I know, and these people on Twitter are saying, like, Jessi Smiles is trying to evoke an emotional response.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Let's talk about ethos.
Like, okay,
actually.
sure. Yeah, because it doesn't even matter. Like, if you're talking about something that traumatic, you are allowed to be emotional about it. Are you kidding? That's like, that would be like saying, Kim Devin saying that people scandalizing the daughter's murder, you know, her pointing that out is her trying to make them feel bad. You know what I mean? That Kim Devin is trying to invoke an emotional response. And because Jessi Smiles is like, stop talking about it. And she gets upset when she says that. That's evoking an emotional response. I'm sorry, kiss my ass, bro. Like, that made me, that's like, oh, Mustafa. I can't. That makes me so angry when people try to denounce your opinion by saying you are attempting to evoke an emotional response when you're talking about something so serious. Gabbie's trying to evoke an emotional response by going, stop making me feel guilty for siding with him after all these years. It's like, well, no, because after all these years, you're still making her relive that night. Her being Jessi, of course, right? So,
yeah, oh you took back the apology as soon as you denied that it happened. Like, if you made a mistake, like, you need to, like, be like, yeah, she could have literally resolved this situation just by saying, yeah, I did do that. I regretted it, apologized, and I am not friends with him anymore, nor do I associate with him. She literally could have ended this all for her in 2019, but she didn't want to because she is obsessed with being right and telling her story. She has the worst main character syndrome. She literally sees herself as constantly being wronged, and it's like, you know, life's unfair to everybody. You know, like, bad things happen to people all the time. But, and I'm not saying that it, you know, you can't be upset about them, but the way that you're choosing to handle them is just inherently causing more issues for you. Like, you're it's like the denial. It's the denial for me. It's the denial for me, because she can't just accept when she's been in the wrong. Like, you know, because she always has to be vindicated.
When you apologize for treating someone like shit about something, and then continue to treat them like shit about something, the apology is void. I don't know why she doesn't understand that. If I say, Elle, I'm sorry for punching you in the face, then I wait a week and I punch you in the face on purpose, because I'm not sorry about it. That's... Like, I'm sorry as a
I have a very punchable face.
Oh, me too, man. Comment below about my face. But yeah, we'll make linked below is a straw poll of which one of us has a more punchable face. But it's just, I'm sorry isn't an apology. It's words strung together. Like, an apology, everyone says this all the time, but no one gets it for some reason, because an apology requires ceasing that action. And why don't people understand that? You know? And then Gabbie Hanna straight up lies and says, I never demanded a public apology, one of the phone calls, she's screaming about a public apology, and she even outlines it for her. She's like, I'll write it. I don't know what the hell that was about. That was like, and she says earlier in the same video, why would I say things that are so easily disprovable?
I don't know, because you like to have a public shaming kink? I don't know, Gab.
You
That's
can't.
what I'm thinking at this point.
Well, you can't keep up with your shit either at this point. That's why you think you're not saying things that are easily disprovable because you can't remember. Like, it's gonna be a weird, like, parallel. Some people will understand this, but Gabbie Hanna is kind of similar to, like, the Amberlynn Reid universe in that regard of, like, not being able to keep track of all the stuff that they've lied about, even though it's, like, on video and super easily, like, quote-unquote, receiptable, if you will, like, easy to make receipts on. And then people will make compilations about it, and then they go, I don't want to watch it. I'm not watching it. Like, you're denying the evidence that's put right in front of your face. So either acknowledge that you screwed it up, or don't say, I don't say things that are easily disprovable. Gabbie makes a mountain out of a molehill, too, about how other people said that it wasn't true, and then brings up Alex James, which Jessi brings up in her video, that Gabbie and Alex were not on the same, like, level of friendship. But Gabbie always tries to bring up a point that, like, Jessi can't forgive anybody, but then Alex James is a perfect example.
She literally did forgive him. He apologized to her profusely, and, like, I didn't follow either Alex or Curtis, but, like, I don't think he's collabed with him to this day. Otherwise, like, I'm sure Gabbie would have easily put that evidence, like, in the video. Like, it's probably been at least, like, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years since he's actually, like, been around, lived with, hung out with Curtis. Like, it's been a while, you know, long enough for her to forgive him. And, like, that's what matters, because all of this is Jessi's story. It's Jessi's trauma to deal with, and it's awful that it's just being continually weaponized back into, like, it's just being thrown back in her face every time, and all just for, again, Gabbie's vindication. Again, like, she literally only cares about her vindication. That's why she demands a public apology from Angelika Oles and Ready to Glare and a bunch of other tea channels who didn't even report on the Bianca Devins thing, or, you know,
that tea spill was like, what? I didn't even make a video on it.
Yeah, Tea Spill was like, I didn't even make a video on it, and she's like, no, we need apologies, public apologies for the family. I've talked to them. Believe me. I was like, okay, Donnie, okay, believe me. Okay.
And Tea Spill, if I remember correctly, isn't even a persona. Like, Tea Spill is a text. It has that copyright free, like, music, and then I'm tone deaf, but has that, like, copyright free, like, tea music, and then it's text overlay, because there's Spill that's the one that actually talks, but then Tea Spill, which is like the OG one that has like 1 million subscribers or whatever, doesn't even, it's literally just text and video clips. So if Tea Spill was able to make a video, that means that that's just what happened, because they can't pull in anything else. There's no, like, there's no pathos in text on a screen like that. As far as when it's not like tweets or something from, like, someone with a personality, right? It's literally just, like, let's say, like a basic sentence of, like, Gabbie Hanna made a video on the Devins family, and then there's a clip of the video, and then it goes, you know, Gabbie Hanna is attacking X drama channel, and then a clip of the video. That's what Tea Spill is. So you're even trying to attract,
like, more fact-based rather than, like, opinions. Some drama channels do give opinions.
Yeah, there's no ethos of a pink screen with a white text overlay.
So cool if there was, though. It'd be real cool if there was.
Personality. Make my job a lot easier.
Though, like, going back to, like, Jessi, like, again, like, she is absolutely allowed to be emotional. That is the logical conclusion. If a human is traumatized by an event, obviously reliving that may upset them or put them in a state where they may be emotionally distressed. That is a logical fact pattern that, like, Gabbie is, like, choosing to instead go, no, I think she's being manipulative and purposefully crying into the camera. Like, I'm recording myself, like, separately on my phone and doing Discord on my desktop. So, like, I keep glancing at the camera. That's not like a manipulation tactic. That's literally just me just making sure that, like, That's literally just me making sure that I'm being filmed. That's it. Like, just checking to make sure I'm filming. Because that's how she recorded the convo, and she literally disproved Gabbie's accusation there. So, like, it's just wild that she's even using this as a plea for emotion, and that she's even trying to weaponize, you know, rhetorical practice. It's very cute, Gabbitha. It's very cute. It's very cute. But I could have sworn you had a psych degree. So maybe you should go back to your, you know, your ADHD pseudoscience and, you know, go back to Neurodivergent University and, you know, keep giving us your hot takes with your PhD that you got.
Yeah, from Google University. Because Gabbie Hanna graduated the undergrad and then stopped. So it's like I'm not like flexing that I have, like, I'm smarter than everyone because I'm doing an undergraduate degree right now. Like, that's not, you know, I say like, oh, I learned this in my classes or whatever, but I'm not like a be all end all of intellectual authority as a result. But it's interesting too because she's like giving Jessi shit for crying, but then Joey and Daniel bring up the fact that like you can't talk to Gabbie Hanna even to her face in any scenario, especially publicly, but also privately, because she'll freak out and scream at you. Like, she will be violent and aggressive. So it's like Jessi Smiles saying like, hey, like she's crying because Gabbie's yelling at her. And then it's also like, I remember Gabbie's like, I'm real, I say shit to people's faces. Like, no, you're just a jerk. Like, and then you're saying that as in a way to like give Jessi shit for not texting, like when she texted you, if you insist on running into me, I will beat your ass. Because Gabbie's like constantly asking people, texting from random numbers from other people at the party too. So it's like you're trying to antagonize her, and then she cracked, which she admits like wasn't the good reaction to do anyways. And then it's like, you're the big boss because you're a jerk to people's faces. It's like, just don't be a jerk. That makes you the bigger person. But you seem to think that everyone's gonna have every reaction poorly, so they're gonna do it in private, makes them like weak. It's like, no, a lot of people just don't have the reactions that you're having. You just think they do because you can't step outside of yourself about anything.
No, literally, like I don't want to say she refuses to see other people's perspectives, but like that's almost what it feels like she's blatantly doing, because like Daniel has receipts. Like, he had the emails from production, like texts from people. Like, she was pissing off people at YouTube, and like, you know, she's like, oh, I'm in the wrong, but it's like, but you didn't own that. You didn't own that. You act like you're doing this to like, you know, solve your problems. You're not. Like, I just am so frustrated. I'm so like, that's why I feel like I'm so scatterbrained with this like podcast, because it's like the first one we had the 4 parts, and now it feels like, I mean, I can like, you can tell that she's like scattering, because, you know, with this Jessi video, it's like damning evidence. With this Daniel video, it's damning evidence, you know, literally prove. And she, I don't want to even say it's an appeal to, it's not an appeal to emotion. She almost attempts to appeal to logos by going, I wouldn't be dumb enough to post things online that could be disproven. It's like, you're almost trying to convince the audience that what happened didn't just happen, because yeah, in fact, you were just disproven.
Which is gaslighting. That's literally, which like I hate, God, I hate that term, and I hate like using it, but I feel like in a conversation about Gabbie Hanna, you have to use it because Gabbie Hanna is the queen of misusing it, right? So like with my channel, my whole point is trying to clarify someone's stance and clarify why they're approaching it with this stance, right? So Gabbie Hanna, and then like Gabbie Hanna will have TRISHA PAYTAS saying like, Gabbie Hanna lied about this. This is what actually happened. And then Gabbie goes, oh my God, that's the definition of gaslighting. It's like, no, it's not. Like, no, it's not.
And Peter Mon was talking about this because I was checking to see if Peter had done any commentary on the video, and he hasn't, because he was saying how exhausting this whole thing makes him feel.
He said he will today, I think.
And amen, Peter. You're preaching to the choir. You're preaching to the choir, Peter.
I know, we do this once a week too. Like, Peter Mon's out here doing it like on average 5 to 7 days a week, and we're doing like once a week, and I'm like, bro, like I'm watching these yesterday, and I'm like, Jaden, I am emotionally drained. Like, I'm talking to my boyfriend, I'm like, man, I need a palette cleanser, so I watch, like, Makeup Nonsense Bingo in the middle of each episode. Or
Yeah.
Teresa said, yeah.
Oh, Teresa's not dead. Yeah. Oh my god. Sorry, I smoked a J before this podcast to get into character.
I did schoolwork and B before this podcast to get into character, but that character being me, because I always do my schoolwork. I always do my schoolwork right before I record the video, so I'm like extra analytical.
No, it's good because like I underestimated the strength of that J. Yeah, like it's really frustrating how she attempts to like diffuse Jessi's like actual facts and evidence and like try to paint it as like a no, like you don't have the actual like she quite literally like is gaslighting her audience at this point with the whole like I wouldn't be stupid enough to do this. It's like I don't know, people have done stupid and stupider things, so yeah, I do think you did that.
Gabbie Hanna, don't we know Gabbie Hanna is the one with the facts and the evidence? She's not going to expose screenshots. She's not going to show screenshots to expose her bullies, her high school fucking bullies. But we're getting towards like the usual time frame that we go to, so let's get into some final thoughts. I want to start that with that depending on what's uploaded next week might not be a Gabbie Hanna episode if series episodes don't come out. If not, we might do like something like the frenemies effect, which would also just be like a far more fun episode to make.
Honestly, especially now that they seem to have resolved their beef. Like, one thing I can say about the Trisha and Ethan situation in comparison to the Gabbie and Trisha situation is that, like, Ethan did a very good and mature job of defusing that by, like, refusing to engage with it any further.
Yeah, and also, like, Ethan Klein, like, never engaged with, like, violent emotion, right? Like, he egged it on at times with humor. Yeah, he egged it on at times with humor, but that's not necessarily the same thing. If there's any videos, again, that people want me to make personally in the middle, obviously go ahead with that. But overall, like, we'll see where Gabbie Hanna continues to go and kind of what drama festers within the week, because we tend to just record these on Tuesday. And I try to get them up Tuesday night or Wednesday morning. And just kind of doing it based on whatever is existing in the internet at the time. It's kind of always just seems to be Gabbie Hanna. And yeah, maybe next week will be a Jimmy Snow episode. I'm just kidding, but maybe I'm not. I don't know.
I wouldn't mind that. We didn't even drag Nick. Yeah. We didn't even drag.
Oh my god, Nicholas DeOrio. Okay, so now Nicholas DeOrio is just defending Gabbie Hanna on Twitter. Big simp energy. And then he's also calling Angelika. He called Angelika Oles a head ass bowling ball, or something like that. Just because she's ugly. I don't think I've ever seen someone call Angelika. I feel like you can call Angelika Oles a lot of things, but not ugly.
Angelika is quintessentially a conventionally attractive white girl. She is not ugly.
Like, Angelika Oles is blonde, blue-eyed, and a size 2 or 0 even. Like, and like 5'5" or something like that. Like, Angelika Oles is like exactly, Angelika Oles is your Western beauty standards. I don't really know what you're talking about in that regard. And then this man's is just like, he's just Nicholas DeOrio's whole platform though is based on being an asshole on the side that no one wants to be on for the sake of conflict. Like, Nicholas DeOrio is like Keemstar. It's that same sort of like egg-on content rather than actual like intellectually formed and critically thought through content. Like when there was a Keemstar, Keemstar H3 drama last summer, Nicholas DeOrio just kept like trying to nitpick from points from Ethan's videos, being like, well, you did this, the same way as Keemstar, let's say like the sponsor thing, but then negates entirely like the fact that Keemstar does these things but exponentially worse. Like, Nicholas DeOrio is just someone that picks conflict for the sake of picking conflict. And this man has like retired YouTuber. It's like, what, you have like a couple 100K subs, like people aren't gonna know you in like, most people don't even know who you are now. Like, I knew who he was because of Bo Blacks, who made some iDubbbz videos back in the day. Which I also unsubscribed from Bo Blacks because I was like, well, you're making these videos with Nicholas Diorio and you're following that same logic, and I just like don't want to sit through that. Like, you can be against my opinion, but like don't do it for the sake of being against my opinion on things.
Yeah, no, like contrarian assholes like that are just like the guys you have in your philosophy class who sit at the front of the classroom and eat the prof's ass, even like, and that
I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Yeah, and it's like Nicholas Diorio's whole channel is based off, and Twitter account is based off being the devil's advocate. Like, that's what it is.
yeah, just contrarian BS, and like, yeah, like the kind of shit like you would like hear in a philosophy class, and you'd be like, roll your eyes, you'd be like, oh, this guy, you know?
Like, I don't make my content based on conflict. I make my content based on the educational value that I can put into it, that I like doing. Right? I'm not just trying to be against Gabbie Hanna or be against Jimmy Snow or be against these people for the sake of, conflict. I'm doing these things based on the fact that I want to explain why the public opinion is turned on them in the first place. That's what I'm deconstructing, the public opinion. I'm not just trying to be a contrarian.
Yeah, and like actually dissecting their responses, dissecting the arguments for, dissecting the arguments against. Because like that's literally what we've done this whole podcast, you know? And like when I was watching your video on Jimmy Snow, and like I'm somebody who doesn't know either content creators. Like I had watched Rachel in passing, and I'm a subscriber now. But like I don't really know much about them. But like he very easily put his foot in his mouth when he was like, he basically admitted to not watching any of Rachel's content because he like sided with Gabbie right off the bat, and didn't really like it. Just goes to show, it's like, oh well, you didn't watch her content then if you think she's a bully, if you think what her, you know, the constructive criticism she's giving is bullying. Yeah. Like that's not it.
And then I brought up how he was a bully. To the same
fact that he weaponizes academic language, and it's like, okay, you're this big elite academic big brain man, but like when somebody's doing like thoughtful, thorough poetry analysis, you're like, oh, that's kind of mean and
poetry's beneath me. Like poetry's kind of dumb. Like I
learned real things like philosophy.
Does this man think he's above fiction? I'm like, English writing was invented through fiction, like through writing fiction. I'm like, like everything stems off of fiction writing. You know how like sentence structure was built off of like the artistic flow from like fiction writing? Do you know that like education came from fiction writing? Of like,
do you know that most of your favorite media came from fiction writing?
Yeah, it's just like these big brain men that are above, like, yeah, and it's someone in my comments, I actually commented T and like the eyeball emojis, brought up that he's like, why is he critiquing like people's marriages when he had a failed engagement? And I was like,
been a murder.
I choked. I was like, oh. I didn't even touch that. I was like, that's a good point. Because like I said, like just because a marriage is short-lived, and also, Paul and Morgan might just be like faking the whole like YouTube persona. Like you have no idea. So for you to say like, I know it's a submission marriage, and it's like and it's already a failure, and then what, you've been together for like 12 seconds, it's like, I don't know, newlyweds need advice too, like, to be frank, right? And that's what the whole course was newly dating or newly married, which is like what they've experienced, because now it's been like 4 years, right? Like the whole course was newlywed, or they're not doing a course on what you do when you're married for 20 years and you don't agree anymore. It was, what do you do like in a Christian, in a fundamentalist Christian lens? How do you date somebody for X amount of months and then get married after X amount of months? And like, how do you stay in the godly image? Which, I mean, like, you do what you want, okay, whatever. But which is like these assumptions and stuff, which it's, yeah, I don't know, the whole Gabbie Jimmy Snow thing is rough, but I just don't know where to go further from that, because that's just like so ridiculous. But anyways, I think I'm gonna link Elle's Twitter and YouTube channel down below, and all the products on my face. All the products on my face, and I did make a TikTok for this makeup look actually this time. And my next video I'll probably do makeup on camera because that's what somebody asked for. Despite the fact that's what I used to do and then no one liked it. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Anyways, you guys have a great day. Bye. Say bye, Elle.
Bye.